We're all talking about digital printing here, and digital printing involves data. So I thought I'd talk about data, which is a material, and I'll explain. I was actually, I think it was one of the FM events, John Patsavalis was discussing data, and he called it the new plastic because it's a pollutant, and data lasts forever. So you create data, and then what happens to it? This is what I've been thinking, and John stimulated the idea. And then I was on holiday in Italy looking at the beautiful Trevi fountain there, these really high resolution images, you see, I've cut down on the data. But there were all those people snapping away, and there are people in this room too who are snapping away at the screen, and then they'll share the photographs. Every one of those is megabytes of data that is going somewhere, and they store it on their phones, or it goes to the cloud. But what happens to all this? This is a data center, the inside of a data center. More on that coming up. So it is a pollutant, potentially, and we have to be careful about what we do with data. The photographic purists in the past were looking at high resolution, so our cameras went to tons of megapixels or whatever. And there was an escalation in the camera industry to satisfy this demand of the photographic purists who said that digital would never be able to do what analog did. Well, it did, but with just more and more complexity. And it sort of sounds familiar in the digital print world. We actually introduce more complexity to maybe overcome the barriers that are put before us by the analog purists, the people who have something to protect. Maybe some of Marcus's characters, the ones that have this groupthink that it'll never happen, digital will never happen. So the old photographers were overcome. And now we've got more megapixels than we ever thought were possible. When we look at the digital camera, I mean, this is any scene, anything that happens, you know, when Richard Darling's presenting, then there's everybody's flashing cameras, it's usual. But if there's a royal funeral or something, then you see the number of pictures that are taken, and just by tourist attraction, they're taking pictures. You can go online and you can get a picture of the Trevi fountain. You don't need to take your own. So maybe we should have one photograph per place and then share it. Maybe. That's probably not going to fly, that idea. This camera was introduced by Fuji. It says Fujifilm, and it's Canon on there, I've just noticed. But it was the original digital camera from Photokina in 1988. It could hold 10 photos. If you look on your iPhone, how many have you got? I've got thousands. And I never look at them either. But the new one, it's just, I mean, look at those figures. I think we talked about physicians earlier, physics earlier. But this says something to me in layman's terms, lots. And there are some other units that we come into later. Anything that's got something in front of it is lots. We need lots of megapixels, and we need lots of data, and we need to keep them. But how many of those, the megapixels enable us to enlarge our photographs, but we never print them. We look at them on the same device that actually created the data. We never enlarge them, we never look at them, we never print them even. We view them on our phones. So then we store them in the cloud and we back them up on hard drives. We buy more hard drives to back up the hard drives that are already on and the PC that it's on, and then in the cloud, and we don't know what's in the cloud and what's in a hard drive. But all of this is data storage, and there's equipment that goes towards that. And then we need printers to match the data richness of the images that we're creating. And even just on a handheld telephone that you can pick up on the high street, it's probably got enough data in it that we can produce billboards. But we need complex printers to do that, so we're always chasing more nozzles and all that sort of stuff that we talk about in this industry. And all of that means that we have to match, it's an escalation. So from the original image, then we need a device that can actually process that to grey levels, more colours, to reach the gamut that nobody else can notice. And certainly if you're of a certain age, then you just don't notice these details anyway. You get the meaning from the image, but we just spend all of our time trying to perfect it because we're printers. It's exhausting. And data, we can create it so easily. Just press the button, press the screen, and it creates data, and then it goes somewhere. But it has a storage cost. These are data centers. And I did a little bit of research following John's talk. These data centers are immense. 4.416 terawatt hours. And tera, that means a lot. Yeah, I'm a scientist. I understand the other thing as well, 40% more than the entire UK. So that's 1.5 countries. We're only a little island off the coast of Europe. Thanks, Mark, wherever you are. But it's 1.5 countries of energy consumption that's in places like these. This one's in Newport, in Wales. I didn't know Wales had such big buildings. But these are immense places that consume vast amounts of energy so that we can store things like photos that we never look at. Just looking at this, these are the countries, these are the top 12 by land area. These are the top 12 in size. And there's estimated power consumption just on these 12. It's rather a lot. That's a lot. You can see the distribution. There's US and China quite high up. That's just on the number of them, but you see the top 2 in China. So it's not just the number of sites, it's the amount of data that's kept. And I couldn't find readily information on that. But some countries might start to think about who's keeping whose data. Whether it's valuable or not is a different question. But this whole thing about data is, that's the curve. It's going to get worse. So we talk about paper and plastics. This is really quite a serious pollutant. And we have to, there's another one, that's a lot. So what I'm coming on to talk about is this, which is nature's way of recording data. It's DNA. So Catalogue Technologies, a company that I came across a few years ago, was starting an inkjet project, and this is the link. So it says there, a DNA storage. And I thought, this is a bit, is it printing DNA? Is it going to make people? Is it going to make animals? Is it sheep or something? But it's actually printing data as a recordable form, so it's reading and writing. And the inspiration here was that this could be a better way to store data than keeping it in those data centers that we've seen. So this all started with Cambridge consultants as well. So it's a Cambridge story, DNA, Cambridge consultants who came up with a printer. And the link, the reason I'm talking about it, it's got a few Ricoh print heads in it. It's just a regular print head that deposits DNA solution, which is, it's complicated. But it prints, there's a series of them. Each of those print heads prints 4 different fluids, and I think there are 28 in the system, so it's sort of alphabet of DNA, and you can print different combinations in different proportions to create different meanings, to create data. So that's the definition of data from Wikipedia, DNA digital data storage from Wikipedia. And in 2019, CatalogueDNA reduced Wikipedia to that, the English version. And that takes no data, it takes no energy to keep it, it's there forever, and you can reproduce it. And they proved that you could write data and read data with precision from something other than the conventional means. It's just a typeface, so you can do it by individual bits, or you can do it by combinations of bits, and their unique is that they actually have a system of coding the things that we want to keep and record in that way. So this is never going to be a money spinner for printheads, but it's actually a really interesting thing, because everything that we rely on for digital printing is data. Of course we need paper and things like that, but this is the stuff of printing. This is all the content on the website, and I won't go into the detail, partly because I don't understand it, if I'm honest. But it's kind of, when it's explained, it's cool stuff. And I think the reason I'm talking about it here is because it's interesting. So we should take care about how much data we consume, create, use, call for, because it is a pollutant potentially. John Patsavalis' view is that we should make decaying data So we should specify how long we need to have it before at the time when we create it, and then it should by default die after that length of time so that it's biodegradable data. And if you want to keep it forever, like an archive, fine, specify that. But otherwise it should die within 2 years or something. And that would limit the amount of growth in the data that we store. It is an eco-consideration. We should be interested in new ways of storing it and using data, especially in our industry. And catalogue technologies seem to have gone into a field which should be of great interest to us all. Not for the number of print heads that it uses, but for the fact that it enables the data that we all rely on. So it's a circular story. We're in Cambridge. It came from Cambridge in the 50s. So it is a thank you to Cambridge. Thank you to the audience for listening, and thank you for the scientific creations from the physicists and people.